Hey, congratulations, end of the semester. Appreciate you hanging in there. Last thing that we want to do is to sort of wrap up what we've been talking about as far as style goes, making your language sing. So on page 161, you can see I've included several pages of examples of stylistically nicely put together sentences. And I'm asking you to do the same thing. You find some examples and share with me. So I'm just going to pick out 3 or 4 of these and let you see where writers can use their imagination and put together sentences in an interesting fashion. So take a look at number 2 on page 161. Splinter is a terrible word. Its sound is synonymous with the sensation, jagged, sharp, piercing, like the nagging voice of a dissatisfied wife. I remember vacationing in Tahoe. The pier was old, worn, and wooden. The boards as rough as a face full of scabs. Running along it, my foot caught the attention of an angry spike of wood, injecting itself cleanly and deeply into the ball of my foot. Now, there's a lot going on here. Now, if I was to write this and I didn't think creatively, I might say, one day, years ago, I was running on a pier and it had some rough wood, and I jammed a piece of wood into my foot, and I was in a lot of pain. Okay, I mean, that says the same thing as what this says, but this says it with imagination and style. So, as an example, look how it starts, a very short sentence. Splinter is a terrible word. And then a long sentence. And look inside that long sentence, look at the connotation. What does that word splinter suggest to the author? Jagged, sharp, piercing. Those are all 3 negative things, aren't they? So you got the connotation, the unpleasant feeling of even just the word splinter. And then it says he was on a pier. It was old, worn, and wooden. You hear the 3 words, old, worn, and wooden. That's parallelism. And then the semicolon. The board's as rough as a face full of scabs. Do you see the comparison that's being made there? The board's being compared to a face. You go, well, how could that be? But a face with scabs, so a rough face. It's, again, very unpleasant. But there's a figure of speech as well. And then he got an angry spike of wood injecting itself. Angry. Well, it's not really angry, is it? But that makes you feel even worse about it. And it's not just a little piece of wood. It's a spike. I mean, a spike we think of as something large. And if you get spiked, you're probably going to die. So this is a spike of wood. Again, the unpleasant quality about that. Look at number 5. Afraid is the calcification of the will. It is the turning to stone of intention and the reduction of energy to 0. One becomes like a rabbit looking with glazed eyes at an oncoming car. I like that last line especially there. If you have fear in your life, it says it's like a rabbit. We are like a rabbit. And how are we like a rabbit? We're so different. Well, when that rabbit turns and sees that car coming and doesn't know what to do, that's the figure of speech to make the comparison there. How about number 6, bottom of the page? In some of my worst nightmares, I am Mr. Smith, a business executive who has the ordinary 9-to-5 job, wears a typical business suit and tie, performs mundane assignments for a faceless bureaucracy, fights rush hour traffic, watches primetime television for entertainment, attends parties and social gatherings for recognition, and retires to a life of golf and bingo games. Would you say that's positive or negative, looking at this life? I hope you feel it's pretty negative. First of all, it's an extremely long sentence full of repeating patterns which almost wear you out to read. And that's the point. This person's life is like a hamster in a little cage with a wheel, and it's just going around and around and around and not getting anywhere. And you feel kind of tired just reading this sentence. It's full of parallelism. Things like fights and watches and attends and retires, all those S-ending verbs. And then look at the details of those items as well. A faceless bureaucracy is what this person works for. No face at all. It's just a bunch of people like robots. You can just almost picture it like robots. Very interesting connotation here. And fighting rush hour traffic. So this whole thing is so negative, but the way it's put together I think is really interesting. I'll do one more. Number 8, near the bottom of the page. My lack of excitement, of curiosity, of surprise, of any interest began to arouse his distrust. Now what's going on here? Let me take out all those of passages. What do you see? my lack of these things began to arouse his interest. Now the subject is my lack, and what did it do? Began to arouse. But there's a subject and there's a verb. Normally in English, that's our pattern, subject, verb, the dog barked. But here it goes subject, and then it splits the subject pretty far with all these ofs, of excitement, of curiosity, of surprise, of any interest. That's parallelism, but it's done for the sake of separating the subject and verb, so you're focusing on those words that are those interrupter words. So my job here for you is to mention some of these others that you thought were effective and why, and you're finding something yourself that's a good example of style. So that's the way we're going to end the semester. One last look at style. And I just want to say here, we're at the end of the semester. I would love to hear from you in the future. If you're still here at Palomar or you're off doing something else, gzacharias@palomar.edu. I'd love to catch up with you and see how things are going. I hope by the end of this semester you feel far more confident in your writing, and that you can write well, you can express yourself no matter what you do for the rest of your life. So thank you so much for being part of the class. I've enjoyed interacting with you, and I wish you well the rest of your life and work and in play and whatever it is you do.